Hi guys, you're welcome back to Kemini Cut and Seam. So I want to show you how to make this flare flounce that you can use on a mermaid skirt or a mermaid dress. Okay, so if you look at it closely, it has some ruffles and then you will need to measure the length. So I'll be using half of a circle to do this. Okay, like if you use 360, the ruffle will be too much, so I'll rather use 180, and I'll use this medium to teach you a different method of how to make your 180. Now some 180 you do it diagonally, okay, and then you divide the circumference by 3.14, but I'm going to use the square like way to make this 180, so it will give me the ruffle that I need. So the circumference, looking at that mermaid skirt, okay, looking at the picture, the first flounce starts below the knee, and I think like 4 inches below the knee. So the length of that will be our circumference, and then you see that they did a little pleat at the waist. So I'm using 23 inches for the knee length, and if you're taking 4 inches down, that's 27. And of course, if you're not careful with circles the way you cut it, you might have excess, so I won't need to add allowances. Okay, so dividing 27 by 3.14, you know, is half of a circle. If it's a full circle, that's 6.28. so because it's a half circle, so we're dividing it by 3.14, and that gives me 8. Yes, about 8 inches. So that would be my radius. Okay, I mark 8 inches all around. Now if I'm getting the width of the circle, I can choose to measure it from this first arc. Okay, so you can connect this arc. So now looking at the flounce, the width of it is about 6 inches or thereabout, so you can I can even use 8. Some parts of it are 8, and then you will need to starch the starting point. Okay, so I can use 8 or 9. I'll use 8 inches. Okay, so I'll mark 8 inches from this point. So you mark it such that it will be easy for you to connect the dots for the second arc. Okay, so that's our arc, and then we need to cut this out. For the flare, one part of it is pencil, kind of pointy. Okay, so I'll just, to have that pointed end, I'll just slash this part out. So that's how it will look like. Now we'll place it on, of course, this half, and then when it gets to the waist, we'll do a little pleat. Now for this, I will need to, you know, use another satin to make the lining of it, or I can choose to use lining, but because it will be showing, okay, so I'll use another satin. So this is how it will look like, and of course we'll add interface to it. You can use a stay or paper stay to give it some kind of firmness, but I'll rather go for paper stay, so it won't be too stiff or heavy. Okay, because already the flounce looks busy. So that's it. So for the flounce, we'll be making 3 of it. Okay, 3 of this. So okay, there's the second one, and the third one looks shorter. So for the flounce, I had to turn it out with another lining, and I added interface to it. After sewing it, I had to bring it out from this point. I kept space while I was sewing it. I kept space so I will be able to bring it inside out. So after that, I gave it a good press, and this is how it looks like, and the second one and the third one too. So I've turned it with satin I did a little facing inside, so it will give it some firmness. I don't want it too thick. All right, you can use A stay, you can use color stay. It depends on the effect you want it to have. And now for the tape one, I was supposed to make it the same length with this, but I made it shorter and I realized that I needed some length more to go around to the back. So the next thing we'll have to do will be to place it on the mermaid skirt. And this is the mermaid skirt. Okay, I've interlocked the sides and I had to iron so that we'll know the midpoint. Hope you can see that. So this is the midpoint, and the first flounce runs through the dart position. This is the upper part of the dress, the bustier part, and I would like the flounce to go through this dart, the seaming that we have here. Okay, so measuring that, this is the midpoint to the midpoint of the mermaid skirt part. So I'm measuring that, and I have 2 inches. So I'm measuring 2 inches from the midpoint that I ironed out. Okay. Okay, so now remember I used 27 inches as our circumference for the flounce. Okay, so I'll go to the edge of the skirt and I'll measure 27 inches downwards. That will be where the first flounce will start. So I'm drawing that line as an indication. Okay. Now I want to mark out all the positionings before I continue, before I bring in the first flounce. So if you look at the picture, we have the second flounce start like 3 inches apart. Okay, so I'm measuring 3 inches from the first line. I'm drawing out the lines. So we have the position for the second one. Now remember, if you look at that picture again, from here we have it few inches below the hip line. So the hip line I used is 10 inches, so I like to use like 14 inches. So above that's the length I would like the second flounce to start. And the third flounce is on the hip line. Okay, and so like I said, we are using 10 inches, so that's 10 inches, and I'll use it 3 inches apart from the second line. Okay, so that's it. So we still have our 1 inch here that we can use for our seaming. Okay, so now the next thing we will do will be to bring in the first flounce. Now if you observe that picture, you see that the sewing of it goes to the edge, to the inside. So I like to pin this from this line. So I'll pin this down and then arrange it on the line that I drew. You pin it to the waist. You know, looking at the picture, it has a little inverted pleat, okay, at the waist. So I'll have to pleat it this way and pin it down, so that when I take it to the machine, it will be easier for me to just sew it. Okay, so when I'm taking it to the machine, I'll sew it first. Okay, sew it down, and before I attach it to the upper part of the dress. The second one starts few inches below the knee line. Now looking at it, is around the knee line. Okay, so it's about 5 inches less or 6 inches lesser or shorter from the first one. So that's the point we'll start. So now I'll bring in the second flounce and I'll have to pin that down. So So I pin it all the way up, and if you look at it, it has some casket, so like zigzag kind of effect. So we'll just try to get that. And then we'll pleat that around the waist. That's it. So when I'm sewing, I'll have to sew this on the waist. The third one starts few inches below the hip. Okay, so I'll just start from here and pin it down. So okay, so when we get to the waist for the third one, it has a kind of pleat, so you'll be able to turn it. So you pleat it this way. So the pleat goes into the waist like so, and looking at this part of it that brought out the third flounce very well, we see that it takes it to all the way to the back, and there will be some net underneath just to take it up a little. That we will have to do. I will have to sew this down first before we do the turning part that takes it all the way to the back. All right, so if you observe, I had to join this. Okay, but if you're doing yours, you can make yours the same length for the three of them. So I'll take it to the machine now and then bring it back for us to see. Okay, so we are done sewing the three flounces to the mermaid skirt. Okay, this is the first one and the second one and the third one. So I had to sew the front to the back, one part of it, the left part, so that I will have to run the remaining flounce to the back. Now looking at that picture, the one we have a closer look at the third flounce, you notice an inverted pleat somewhere before the mid back, but I like to do my own inverted pleat around where I join this satin because I don't need it to show. Okay, so and beneath it you see a little net under it that gives it a kind of standing effect. Okay, so this is the net, and I would like to measure the length of the satin because it doesn't need to be longer than the satin. Okay, I have about 7 inches here, and the net is about 8 inches, and I need like 6 inches, so I will have to cut about 1.5 inches. I just need to do a little gathers. Okay, I'll just gather it. So now you come here, and this is where the net goes in. So I'll take it to the machine and make the ruffle better, but I just want to pin this so you will know the position I'm placing this. So after that, I'll do the inverted pleats. Like I said, I'm doing it around where I did the joining of the satin because I don't need it to show. So this is how it will look like. And then that's it. So I'll take it to the machine and finish this part of it, and perhaps join the whole dress so we'll know how it looks like. So these are 3 tail ruffles, the final look of it. You can make yours smaller or more firm than this. It depends on the texture of the fabric or the interface you choose to use, but whatever you choose to use, I'm sure it will come out real nice. So this is how it looks. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe and share. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video.